Hola, hola familia, and welcome to the Amiga Mía talk show. And this time around, we have a very, very special guest. So I don't know if you've seen on social media ALELD. So I know I came across it a couple of years ago. I don't know if it was like last year or the year before that. And I started seeing it popping up everywhere on social media. And I was like, what is ALELD? And I thought, why not get the CEO himself to jump on and talk to us a little bit about what ALELD is, who he is behind it, driving, the missions and everything that they're hoping to achieve. And then also, getting a couple of questions and just finding out more about it. And certainly through the lens of our community and how we can interact with ALELD if we choose to do that as well. So yeah. ALELD, what is it? It is Australia LATAM Emerging Leaders Dialogue. For those who don't know, LATAM, that stands for Latin America. And they're all about strengthening relations between Australia and Latin America. So they're a non-for-profit organisation established in 2018 by Aaron Watson and I'm going to try my best to pronounce his name, Borja Martel Seward. And that has grown over to 40 volunteers, maybe more. We'll find out from Sam, and across about 15 countries. So yeah, our special guest today is Sam Bissett, who's the CEO of ALELD. He's motivated by a passion for strengthening Australia's ties with Latin America. And he started his volunteering journey with ALELD in 2021. And he started as a LATAM Link contributor, which we'll find out more, but I think it's the newsletter where we find out about what's happening, I guess, in terms of all the affairs between both regions. And he took over as Director of Publications in 2022 and eventually assumed the role as CEO in 2023. So 2 years as CEO so far, or thereabouts, and then driving all the impactful initiatives and fostering cross-cultural collaboration. And then outside of ALELD, Sam is an advisor at Austrade, where he facilitates foreign direct investment into Australia with a focus on critical minerals and net zero transport. Sam holds a Bachelor of Global Studies and a Diploma of Languages from Monash University, where he served as Vice President of Oxfam at Monash and was a recipient of several scholarships, including Walter Mangold Trust. Outside of 9 to 5, Sam juggles a passion for singing and continuing his German and Spanish studies, and also shares his love of Melbourne by leading walking tours throughout the city. So Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to be here, and thanks for having me, Michelle.
Yeah, I think first of all, your experience and your background is really admirable. Looks like you've definitely got the right experience to be in the role that you're in. And before, I guess, because we've got a bunch of questions that we've curated just to make sure we get enough of the information to the audience. But one question before we even start, where's your Spanish levels at? If you were to just kind of give yourself a scale from 0 to 10, where would you place yourself?
I studied Spanish for 4 years at university. I got to a B2 level, I guess you could say, in that broader ranking system of ability. I haven't used it as much as I would like probably in recent years, apart from when I do travel to Latin America. So I think I'm able to hold my own pretty well in day-to-day conversations in Latin America, but probably not quite at the sort of university level that I was in my final years of studies. But yeah, I practice wherever I can and try to keep it up.
Love that. Love that. And do you use Duolingo at all? Is that one of your apps of choice to kind of keep in touch with the language?
Yeah, I did, but I don't know. I find it's quite basic. It's good for keeping your mind jogging, I think, or maybe learning the basics of a language from scratch. But I don't know. I kind of get bored of it after a while. But it's good. It's got a game kind of feel to it, right? So that motivation to do it every day is definitely there.
Yes, that's so true. They've upped the ante with all the gamification. So
Yeah.
love. All right. Well, maybe a little bit later we can get a phrase out of you, Sam. Awesome. So I guess just to kick things off, ALELD, as I mentioned earlier, out of nowhere, and I don't know if there was a change in social media strategy or something, but I started seeing it everywhere, and not just on social medias, but events were starting to pop up, and all these sort of things. And for me, sitting in Amiga Mía and like what I do day in, day out, and I guess what I commit my life's work to is supporting the Latin Australian community. And I was so intrigued by it. I was like, ¿qué es esto? Quiero saber más. Like, I need to know more about this. And so, yeah, if you want to tell us a little bit about what is ALELD.
Yeah. So, as you said, ALELD stands for the Australia LATAM Emerging Leaders Dialogue. Although we always joke about the fact that no one can agree really on how to pronounce it. Some people say ALED, some people say ALELD. We've
I was
decided that
going
it's
to ask the same thing.
yeah, we've decided it's just up to you. You can say it however you like,
Yeah.
although I do say ALELD. We're a non-profit organization founded really not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, back in 2018 by an Argentine, Borja, and an Australian, Dr. Erin Watson. Really, they saw a gap in organizations working to strengthen relations between Australia and Latin America. I think there's a lot of youth-led organizations for other regions in Australia, particularly Asia, but there wasn't really a similar organization like that working in the Latin America space here in Australia. So they founded the organization, and Erin is still the chair of the organization to this day. Our first initiative was a young leaders dialogue between young Australians and Argentines at the Australian Embassy in Buenos Aires back in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that sort of kicked things off. It was intended to be an annual event. So one in Australia, one in Latin America. The intention, I don't think, was to have this broader youth-led organization. It was more that dialogue focus. But of course, 2020 had other plans. So it was sort of around that time that we evolved into a broader platform. And started to onboard volunteers, develop some mission and goals and strategic themes that started to guide our work. Obviously, during COVID, all of our work was very remote, and it still is to an extent, although we do have a lot more in-person engagements now. But as you said, our goal is to strengthen the relationship between Australia and Latin America, particularly through the power of young people. And our work is guided by 5 strategic themes, you could say, which is governance, environment, economy, cultural exchange, and social development. So everything we do wraps around one or more of those strategic themes. And like the organization has evolved quite a bit over recent years. And these days we have a few different program areas or teams. So across things like diplomacy, events, partnerships, publications, operations, and communications. And so those teams drive some of the events that you might have seen on social media. So our Young Leaders Dialogues, our LATAM Link publications platform, those networking and panel discussion events, and our collaborations with diplomatic missions, just to name a few. But yeah, we're about a team of about 40 passionate young Australian and Latin American people who I guess all believe in the power of a stronger, more connected relationship between our two regions.
I've definitely know people now who are a volunteer for ALELD. I would say probably the first one that I came across was Mariana in Canberra.
Yeah.
I believe she's a director of communication or
Diplomacy. Yeah.
Diplomacy. Yeah. I think she actually won. I'm not too sure if you know, but she won the Empower Awards, which they, so for best entrepreneur or top entrepreneur. And a huge part of that was just letting the community know about all her work that she was doing for ALELD. And that was part of what she was judged by as to why she would be #1 entrepreneur in the Latin Australian community in Australia. And so that's kind of where I got a deeper insight into her role, and not just her role with ALELD, but also the impact that her role with ALELD had to the wider community. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And also from an outsider looking in, you don't really realize until you have these deeper conversations how sophisticated the structure is. And not to say that other community or non-for-profit organizations aren't sophisticated, but yours, like ALELD, really does have like a organizational structure to it, so to speak, which is really impressive.
Yeah, I think obviously it wasn't always that way, but that's certainly been one of my goals as CEO is to build that structure so I can pass it on to someone eventually down the track, and the organization can keep running and keep succeeding and kicking goals. Because I think, yes, our goal is to work towards that broader mission of strengthening relations between our two regions. But I also see ALELD as a platform for developing people's leadership skills and building experience here in Australia. And that requires that sort of structure and teams and all of the things that comes along with a normal organization, you could say. So Yeah, that's partly
Yeah,
why.
absolutely. And I guess that ties into a bit of the second part of this question, which is why should Latin Australians, although there's clearly so many benefits, but know about this and I guess maybe want to get more, like, want to know more information about it. And to your point, like, so it seems like you are doing a little bit of is it professional development or
Yeah,
giving
I'd
people
say.
more exposure into this space? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, look, there are so many amazing Latin-led organizations in Australia, but from my observation, they all tend to have a particular focus. And I think a lot of that is on the really important work of supporting new migrants and being that space to connect with Latin culture in Australia. Whereas ALELD serves a little bit of a different purpose. I think it's there, obviously, with that slightly broader diplomatic, political, and business lens in terms of deepening those ties between Latin America and Australia. And with that in mind, I'd say we're probably one of the only organizations doing that kind of work in this space. So we quite uniquely bring together emerging leaders, students, academics, business people, creatives, entrepreneurs from all different industries and from across both regions to work towards that goal. And this is sort of what I alluded to before, but I think, yes, we do have that higher level impact in terms of the diplomatic and business side of things, but we do at the same time also really try to be a platform for grassroots ideas. So that means being a space where you can share your story, grow your network, connect with your Latin American culture or Australian culture, and really contribute to something bigger than yourself. So we always encourage our volunteers, if they've got an idea, to bring it to us and we'll support them to make it a reality. So it's definitely about a professional development opportunity as well, not just the broader goal.
If I can highlight something, I think that's incredible what you've just said. And to highlight something, certainly para a comunidad, for anyone who's listening, something I took from that, which I think is very powerful, is the ability to share story. Because I do know with what happens with Amiga Mia, there's so many people out there doing incredible things. And all they want to do is they share their story and they often don't have a platform, right? And so I think that's super, super amazing. So if you're listening, check out ALELD website and yeah, because there's an opportunity to share your story. And I guess moving on to the next one is Sam. You are the CEO. You've been the CEO for 2 years. And I guess what led you to take on this role, or even step before that? Who is Sam Bissett? A little bit about you personally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, look, like many people's stories, it's complex, and I certainly didn't expect to be sitting in this position, but everything happens for a reason, you could say. So yeah, I'm 27. I'm born and raised in Melbourne. I have no Latin American background or family connections, although I do now have a deep love and appreciation for the region.
Nice, nice.
Funnily enough, growing up, I wanted to be a musical theatre performer. I even took a gap year
Okay.
to train really hard for all of the music theatre schools. But at the same time, I had always had a curiosity for languages and global politics, particularly throughout high school. Although I saw it more of as a backup career at the time, I was really set on doing musical theatre. But during that gap year, I started to realize that perhaps theatre was more of a hobby for me, and that international relations was really where I wanted to put my focus. So during that year, I decided to sort of give away the professional side of music theatre and go on to study a Bachelor of Global Studies, and as well as German and Spanish at university. I'd learned German from a young age, and I even did my university exchange there, and I loved the language. And so I decided to study Spanish because I thought it would be great to have another skill on my CV, and I really enjoyed languages, but I definitely didn't expect to fall in love with Latin American culture and history and politics as much as I did. It was, yeah, I guess it was through particularly those cultural and historical subjects at university that I started to realize how little attention Latin America received in conversations, from the international relations sphere to sort of the broader conversation in Australia. And it's something that really stuck with me. I'm quite a curious person, so it definitely encouraged me to want to find out more and learn more about a region that I didn't really know much about. But it's safe to say that at the time, I didn't really know what to do with that interest. It was really just one day that I stumbled across ALELD on LinkedIn. They were doing a call out for contributors to their publications platform. And I thought that'd be a great way to to keep doing something related to that interest after I finished university. So I started writing articles and then eventually became the director of publications, so overseeing that LATAM Link platform, which is where we publish articles from emerging writers. So people, studying journalism or politics, or really anyone who's got something interesting to say on Latin American or Australian politics or culture or history. So I love that. And I'm really happy that that publications platform's still going to this day. But yeah, when our incredible former CEO, Jimena Mitchenberg, stepped down, I decided to put my hand up, and here we are.
And that was 2023.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I guess, sorry, if I may interject. So are you balancing, because ALELD being non-for-profit, are you balancing CEO of ALELD, and do you also have another job sort of full-time in parallel?
Yeah. So, I mean, like all of our volunteers, it's all done out of the goodness of our hearts and passion. Yep. So I do have a day job. I work at the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, which is the government's trade and investment promotion agency. Specifically, I work in attracting foreign investment into the net zero sector. So most of my ALELD work happens very early in the morning, late at night, or on the weekends. But yeah, that's because I'm so committed to our mission and the community more broadly. So yeah, I guess I hope as CEO that I can make sure the work that I'm doing and that we're doing continues to thrive well beyond my time in the role. And that's sort of what motivates me.
Credit to you for doing that, holding those two roles in tandem like that. I can imagine wouldn't be easy for anyone. And so it really shows, to your point, how committed you are and to pursuing this incredible mission that ALELD has. Okay. And so you mentioned Jimena. Quickly, so Jimena, what's her story? What was her background?
So Jimena's an engineer. She's from Argentina originally, but now she lives all over the world. I haven't spoken to Jimena in a little while, but last I heard she was in Vienna, I think Copenhagen, doing some amazing work at those sort of multilateral levels. So like with the World Economic Forum and things like that. So she's gone on to great things, but definitely left a great legacy for ALELD.
Well, nice shout out here to Jimena for being former CEO. Excellent. And you've spent time working with Latin American leaders and communities. What's something you've learnt from, I guess, the Latin American culture that's really stuck with you, or that's a highlight, or that's interesting, or?
Yeah, look, I'd probably say there's two things. The first one is a bit more superficial, but really important. And I think it's the warmth and the openness of Latin American people in general that has really stood out to me. I found that people seem to connect on a really deep level much faster than typical Australians would. There's a real strong sense of community and family and a lot less social distance compared to other cultures. So as a non-Latin American person, that's something that has made me feel really welcome and included in social or professional situations. I wish there was more of that in the world, because I think it's just really nice. But probably the thing that's inspired me the most is really the entrepreneurial spirit that I've seen in so many Latin American people here in Australia. And, I'm sure you kind of fit that mold as well, but you would have also observed so many Latin American people who come to Australia looking for new opportunities or maybe to study, but often have to start from scratch because of all of the challenges with getting qualifications recognized and experience recognized. And so it's the sheer resilience and drive and creativity that I see, particularly in the sheer number of Latin small businesses opening up in Australia. It's just incredible. And I think I really connect with that as well, because I think that's also the story of a lot of our volunteers at ALELD. Because we're volunteer led, it's often a great opportunity for people who've more recently moved to Australia and are looking to build some local experience to sort of get their foot in the door. And so I think that's a really big reason why we exist as well. It's to support people navigating that transition and offer a space for people to build their local experience and grow their network and really meet like-minded people who can support each other on that journey. So yes, it's something that has blown me away. And I'm really in awe of the entrepreneurial spirit of Latin people here.
Yeah. And I've also noticed, I don't know if you've noticed as well, but particularly the Colombian community.
Yeah.
They are so incredibly deeply entrepreneurial. I'm not too sure if you know of the two Colombians behind the big Victorian Latin market.
No.
They,
Yeah.
yeah, so in the Victoria market in Melbourne, it's one of the
Yeah.
biggest. I think it's the biggest Latin market potentially across Australia,
Ah,
and
okay.
they've managed to make it really big. They've got so many different Latin small businesses that are there, whether it be a cafe, restaurant, some type of service or product or what have you. They're called cachivaches.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cachivaches.
Got you.
Yeah, and it kind of yeah, they're a testament to how deeply entrepreneurial well, all Latin community, but the Colombians are on another level. And
Mm.
it's really beautiful to see. So I definitely agree with you on that. And yeah, the resilience part as well. It's definitely, I think I was talking a little bit about that as well. For those who don't know, there was a very recent She Rises conference held by Alejandra Angeles from Girls in Australia. And that
Yeah.
sort of was a common theme as well, right? Which was like how the Latin community have built resilience and how they can use that to kind of navigate change, certainly in the workplace environment as well. So agree with you on that one, 100%.
Mm.
Question. So do you have a favorite country that you've traveled to in Latin America?
I mean, it's hard to pick, but I would probably still have to say Mexico.
Uh-huh.
I think, well, I love the food in Mexico. I just think it's incredible. I love the diversity in regional cuisines. People are obviously amazing, and it's such a large country that you've got so many different ecosystems. You've got amazing cities, rainforest, beaches. So yeah, I love Mexico a lot, but it's hard to pick.
It is, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And just quickly shout out to Cindy Flores. I don't know if you know Cindy Flores. She's turning into a bit of a TV celebrity chef and she's Mexican.
Okay.
And yeah, she's incredible. And also Diego, he has a Mexican brand called Frito Cacao. And he's also, they're both of them are here on a mission to really, I guess, elevate Mexican food and how it's sort of positioned in the Australian market. Because at the moment,
Okay.
it's still, there's certain places where it's maybe just not represented authentically. And they're really on a mission to change that. So I just wanted to give them a quick shout out because they would love to hear you saying Mexico.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And I would agree. Like you can't like the food is next level, right? And we know
Yeah.
that Aussies love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. I feel like it's funny in Australia, we have, I feel like you can get really authentic food from all over the world. Whereas still, I feel like the Mexican food here is pretty Tex-Mex. It's nice to see some more, I guess, authentic Mexican places opening up over the past few years. But yes.
100% it
Yeah.
is Tex-Mex. And
Yeah.
we're definitely seeing a lot of fusions. Like we're having a conversations with the Mexican community that there's a lot of like these fusions where it's not even Tex-Mex. It's sort of like a couple of different cultures mixing it in and then labeling it as Mexican. And I feel like that's beautiful when they say, hey, this is a fusion, right? But it's sort of a little
Mm.
bit interesting when they go, this is authentic Mexican and it's a
Yeah.
fusion. And
Yeah.
so that's something that we're sort of navigating as well as a
Hmm.
community. It's how to sort of, yeah, understand that.
Yeah.
All right. And so what legacy would you like ALELD to leave? So you mentioned before that you're building these structures, you're leading these great initiatives. It seems that you're really, I guess, you're ambitious, which is great, but not just for young leaders, but for future of leadership, social development, international cooperation. What legacy would you like to leave or ALELD to leave?
Yeah. Well, look, I think more broadly, young people have been excluded from leadership and decision-making positions historically,
Mhm.
and I'd say that that's a shared challenge from across Australia and Latin America. At the same time, progress is definitely being made. I think of the president in Chile, for example, as one of the youngest world leaders at the time, but I think we definitely have a long way to go still. And if it's a bit cliche, but of course the decisions that are made today will shape the world that young people inherit down the track. So I'm a firm believer that they deserve a seat at the table, particularly
Mhm.
because young people bring fresh ideas, new ways of thinking, and a diversity of experience that I think can more effectively tackle today's complex challenges, you could say.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, the legacy that I'd like to see ALELD leave is probably twofold. Like, obviously, I want to see a much stronger, more visible and enduring connection between Australia and Latin America. But, we are more than a bilateral initiative. So I ultimately hope that ALELD contributes to a future where young people are trusted and empowered to lead across cultures and borders as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I guess kind of an extension to that would be, what would you say to a young Latin Australian, right? Maybe someone who's listening and, they want to lead or they want to create change, but they don't really see themselves reflected in leadership spaces. I guess what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I mean, I say firstly, like as an Anglo-Australian man, I haven't necessarily experienced the same challenges that a Latin Australian might face in leadership spaces, but I have, of course, experienced a lot of imposter syndrome throughout my very short career, but I have learnt that almost everyone doubts their abilities at some point. And I think, when you're in leadership positions, it can often feel like you're not good enough or not qualified enough to be there. But I've started to realize that leadership is a journey. It's not something that you work towards for years and years to eventually earn the title of leader. It's something that you just build over time through actions. So, I mean, what I would say is that if you want to create change or be a leader, you just need to start small. And that might be as simple as showing up to a networking event or volunteering in some capacity in your community. And like if a space that you want doesn't exist, then create it, because that's what so many people at ALELD have done and have gone on to become such incredible leaders in their own industries and communities. So yeah, that's what I would say. And also surround yourself with a supportive network of like-minded people, because that's the only way you really build confidence and grow your network.
And speaking of that, so we know a little bit about the Let Them link, but talk to us a little bit about the events, because that's the other thing we've seen popping up left, right and centre. Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney, there's an ALELD catch-up. And you post photos and it looks really interesting. So I guess for those who don't know much about it but are intrigued, what is an ALELD in-person event all about?
Yeah, so we started to do in-person events as we came out of COVID, really, so 2022 or so. And I guess our events fall into two different categories. So you've got those more social catch-ups and those networking drinks. We had some networking events earlier in the year. So that's usually at a bar or a pub or a restaurant, and just an informal way to meet people, all like-minded people interested in some way, shape or form in the Australia-Latin America relationship. So it could be academics, it could be students, or anyone in between, really. So there's those networking events, but then we also try to do, I guess, more meaningful educational events on top of that. So panel discussions, workshops. So last year, we, for example, ran a panel discussion and roundtable as part of the OECD Ministerial Summit in Colombia. We've also done some panels on education and migration. We will very soon be having one in Melbourne on trade coming up in a couple of months, as well as women in leadership. So that's sort of the two different sides of our events, and we try to make them all a good networking opportunity as well. So come and learn something, but also come and meet new people, new and old friends. And it's a great way, of course, if you're interested in being a bit more involved in the organisation, it's a good way to make that first step and connect with our amazing volunteers. Like obviously I'm in Melbourne, but we've got a team across all of Australia where our events take place, and everyone's always very willing to chat and say hi.
And can I also give a shout out, because I noticed that one of the events recently was at a Latin cafe or restaurant.
Chilenito?
Chilenito, that's right. It was really nice to see. And also because at the moment, I think they're going through a process of franchising or they opened a new store in the city, I think. And so that was really lovely to see that the ALELD catch-up was held in a Latin-owned business. So that was lovely.
Yeah, it's not always possible, but we do try to do that where we can. Yeah.
And I mentioned at the beginning of the call, actually, before we get to this last one, I do have a question around, are you able to share a little bit about a community initiative that ALELD's working on at the moment?
Yeah, so we are now looking into launching a national survey of the Latin American diaspora in Australia to understand their experiences, challenges, and aspirations across a range of issues, including migration pathways, employment, study, cultural identity, social cohesion, and long-term settlement, and things like that. Because obviously the Latin American community is a rapidly growing diaspora in Australia, but we have very little data or information on their experiences. And I think that's a really big gap and something that we at ALELD can contribute to. So I'm really looking forward to progressing that initiative. And hopefully it will create some really practical and actionable insights for policymakers, for governments, for civil society groups as well. So organizations that work more closely with the Latin American community in Australia. A really broad-reaching report that can provide some insights of the state of play, I guess you could say. So we're hoping to deliver that by the end of the year, and yeah, really keen to keep your community updated on where that's at.
Oh, I love that, because at the moment, for someone like myself, where we do want to pull that data, at the moment, you've only really got the census to work off and a couple of different reports here and there. Like there is this incredible Venezuelan professor in Melbourne. What's his name?
Raul, yeah.
Raul, yeah, I do believe that he's written something as well that's got some level of insight, but I do believe it's localized to, I think, Melbourne. Yeah, so having that would be an absolute asset. So definitely going to be, cheering you along the way and hoping that, we can definitely get our hands on that, because that would be an incredible asset.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much on giving us an overview of ALELD and yourself. And I guess last question about ALELD, and then we can jump into maybe a little bit of a Spanish phrase, is how, if people, I know you've mentioned it throughout the call, but I guess like a more summed up version, if people want to get in contact with ALELD, find out more, or they want to know about the next events to attend, where can they find that information?
Yeah, so you can follow us on social media. Our handle on all platforms is Australia Latam, LATAM, or you can visit our website, australialatam.com, and there you can sign up to our newsletter. So we release a newsletter about 4 times a year with updates. You can also join our WhatsApp community. So we have a growing WhatsApp community of about 300 people, and that's probably the best place to find out first about upcoming volunteer opportunities, events we're running, but it's also a really fantastic community space for people to share events that they've seen in the community, ask for help, or even some interesting news about Latin America. So there's always great discussions in that. You can send us a message on Instagram if you'd like to join that, and we can add you.
I love that you have a WhatsApp group. That's such a Latin American style of communication.
Yeah. And I should also say that if you're a budding writer, if you're a university student and you might want to repurpose one of your university assignments, for example, or even if you're not, you're just interested in writing, then you're welcome to submit an article for our LATAM Link publications platform. So we publish journalistic style articles of about 800 to 1,000 words across pretty much any topic you like. It could be politics or culture or history. So if you're interested in that, you can send an email to us at hola@australialatam.com, or just reach out to us on social media.
Love that. What an incredible opportunity. And I definitely do have some people front of mind that I'd love to even share this with. There's one group in Canberra who is so active. I think they're called LASO, Latin American Association, University of ANU, I think. They are like really leading the way from my point of view, in terms of like students in university coming together, but also like driving initiatives. And I know that they would love to have that platform. So definitely we'll let them know. So thank you for that. And I guess just to close, favorite Spanish phrase. It doesn't have to be a favorite. It could be a Spanish phrase to share with us.
I mean, as I said earlier, I love Mexico, so I can't go past a bit of Mexican slang. No manches or que chido probably are my favorites. But
que chido, no manches. Nice. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for your time today. I really appreciate it. I can't even imagine how busy you are. So for you to take the time means the world. And for those who are listening, I'm definitely going to have in the show notes information in terms of how to get in contact with ALELD and share that there. And yeah, really looking forward to following your journey and the initiatives that you're driving. And I guess from my side, where I'm sitting with Amiga Mía, I just thought it was really important to have this conversation with you, because I think what you're doing is amazing and the impact is being felt. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
No, and thank you so much for having us. It's been great to chat with you and share the work that ALELD's doing. So I'm looking forward to connecting with your community more into the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.